Okay, today is the 9th of March and we did reading and we talked about these things. What is reading? Which is decoding of input relating to existing knowledge about the world, about language and hypothesising and guessing. And how to read and understand by looking at the whole text, understanding its purpose, looking at the various parts of the words and how they relate, understanding the meaning created by the words combined, understanding intended effect or influence, and the need to be able to think critically is how we understand reading. Foundational reading skills, well, you need to know the alphabet. As children, we learn to speak before we write, so it's harder for international students because they're doing both at the same time. So always having visual input will improve how much we learn. So if we're teaching reading, always have the visual pictures. You learn 6 times more having the visual with the written, with the spoken, I'm sorry. This is an example. So if I say Steve Jobs lookalike is Dan Lyons, and then I don't show you a picture, then maybe you're less likely to remember. This is different strategies we can do to improve learning styles. So we can teach them how to note take, write exercises for each other, questions for each other, mapping what they've found out. Okay, you can look at all this, but it says if we're teaching beginners, we should use at least size 18 and use the Comic Sans. And we don't want to mix our letters up with a capital and a lower like this. And we're talking about the graphophonics and the phonographics. Normally the graphophonics is the way we teach. So we have the picture or the realia and then we go into it. So for example, we show them a spoon. What is this? We don't ask, what is this? And then they have to say, elicit, spoon. And then we can show them with the lips how we do the sp. And the p is the explosion. So it goes p like this. And then oo is a long sound and at the end. So that's called the phonemes. We have the graphemes. And we have the letters. The graphemes and the letters in this case are the same, except the oo is together because that makes one sound. So this graphophonics is how we teach. So we show the item and then we introduce the sound. And then the spelling comes after that. You can see down here the spelling. So we have the semantic background and the syntactic knowledge of grammar. So we can say it's a noun. So we introduce all of these things. First, we elicit what it is. Then we explain about the pronunciation. Spoon. Teach them the IPA if they know it. Show them where the stress is. Give them the background. Contextualize it. And then we work out at the end noun, verb, and then have them put it in a sentence. This is saying about how we start with the basic chunks, so like cat, sat, fat. We might go to eat, bit, dit, and then et, wet. When they first start in elementary, they might have something like this to fill in, which we can work out by saying, for example, bossy E, so then that A becomes an aim. When you have bossy E, you have the A into an A, or the O into an O, or E into E, things like that. And talk about basic things that relate to them. And if you're using authentic material, well, there's lots of it out there. If it's relatable, yes, but be careful. Sometimes there's mistakes, like these ones here. Junk mail we can easily use, and newsletters we get given once a week. So you can get the digital version of that and look at the classifieds, for example, or what's happening in our community. Okay, so we have to adapt these texts to make it suit the class we're teaching. If it's too hard, for example, in the book we've got an article about nursing, we have to read it and then rewrite it in our own words into easy English. So if we have read for social purposes, different ways that we read. So we read every word normally in a novel. We want to read it, we cherish it, we enjoy it, we do it for pleasure. But for a website, you just pull out little bits that you need. Okay, and you don't had a discussion about whether to use a dictionary or not, and I said if we're looking for specific detail, yes. Nelson seems to think that more so, yes, because dictionaries are helpful. And I say we have basic dictionaries in elementary class, not the thick ones. And there's Word Reverso, Linguini, and other sites as well you can go to, but we've all decided that Google Translate doesn't do a good job. But I think it's best to ask the teacher, especially if you have a bilingual teacher, rather than using a dictionary. Maybe look at a dictionary later when the students have time, depending on the task, of course. If it's specific detail, by all means, you're giving them time, then they can look in a dictionary. If we just want gist, rather they ask the teacher. And also, if you have the first and last letter the same, especially if you're a native speaker, it's very easy to pick up what this says. So we can decode by looking at the actual shape of the word and also by looking at the word roots. So you can see establish, dis is not, anti is not, meaning double negative, so pro-establishing the church. Even though it sounds very confusing, disestablishmentarianism. Other ways to work out if you're stuck on a word is you look at it, de-chunk it, look at the vowel, say it slowly, ask if it makes sense in the sentence. Okay, different things you can do. And also you can look at the syllables, you can look at the vowel pattern, prefixes and suffixes. So if you have a book, magazine, recipe or newsletter to introduce reading, just bring in the realia related. So for example, recipes, you could bring in some ingredients and ask what we could make. Talk about the students' dishes, the dishes they have in their culture, and have them explain how to make the meals. And our end task would be they write up and then print it out and we all read it together. Top down and bottom up, so having the actual capsicum brought in, how we can make a meal from capsicum would be a bottom up style teaching. But if I had an email and a formal letter and looking at both of them, work out their formality, the registers, then maybe we do top down because we're looking at the actual words within the email and the formal letter, breaking it down. So contextual clues, so that's using the root form of the words. Sometimes they say the Latin base of the word. So like 80% of English words come from Latin. Scanning is for looking for information. Skimming is just getting the gist, so we looked at both. And reading for pleasure. And if we want to read for pleasure, we want to encourage this, so you can have students download from YouTube. There's audio books, and you can go to the library these days and download movies. Of course, everyone's a member of Netflix or Stan or whatnot. And there's songs that actually are sung with the IPA as well. So looking for detail, things you can do is get them to read and write down questions, ask someone else, swap pairs over, get them to answer those questions. Lots of activities you can do for looking for details. And authentic materials, we all think it's a good idea to use as much as possible because it helps them learn about the community they live in. Critical literacy is when you critique something, you look at why it's written in such a way. What was the author's purpose in writing? Did he, she write it in such a way that it persuades you one way or the other? Giving feedback, try and do as much as possible. Corrections, we've said before, don't just say straight out no. You can say nearly, quite, there, not quite. And that's it, finished. So I'll put that on WhatsApp. Bye-bye.